Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer Tryon. Thanks for tuning in this hour. We are going to showcase some very cool gadgets that are going to help you in your sewing room. I've just finished this so cute quilt for my nephew, Keaton. It's sideways here, but you get the drift. We've got a big K and then just like a strip of blocks that kind of go up the center. It's a big queen size, so it's lots of space, and I've taken it off the long arm. I did edge to edge here, and I thought it turned out so great. These little kind of modern blocks. Thought it was perfect for a little boy, and it will kind of stand the test of time. And I've got fireside fabric on the back. And boy, did this quilt up beautifully. And we are going to get to making the machine binding in just a minute, but I wanted to show you if you ever wanted a comfy, soft way to turn your quilt into feeling almost like a comforter, the fireside fabric is gorgeous, and it quilts up beautifully, both on your regular sewing machine, and it's beautiful on the long arm or your cutie frame, whatever you're using. So the last thing I need to do before I give sweet little Keaton this quilt is I need to make the binding. So that's where you guys come in. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to do it using the So Cute laser. This is a new product we got in the shop. And this is one of those ones where once you see it, you're like, wow, okay, game changer. And so, yeah, I definitely wanted to bring it to you guys today and kind of do a little deeper dive in showing you how it works and how I'm going to use it to sew together my machine, or to make the binding for my machine quilting or machine binding on this quilt. So I can set the quilt aside. Let me know if you have any questions about the fireside fabric or about machine binding in general. But essentially what I've gone ahead and done is cut myself about a yard's worth of 2.5-inch strips. And I'm just doing them in solid navy. Keep it nice and easy. And I'm using the Janome 6700P. This is, oh, I got a hair in my eye. This is fabulous for quilters. It's one of those machines that if you already know quite a lot about sewing and quilting, or enough that you don't need maximum computerization, like you don't need the machine to organize everything for you, you don't need the machine to choose the stitch lengths and widths and all of that for you, you just want like a straight up workhorse, lots of throat space, all metal bed, that's the machine for you. So you can reach out to us if you're interested in the 6700P, or you can go ahead and grab it from homemade.ca. We're taking another 10% off all machines for Black Friday, so that's great. Let me just pull it into position here, because what I want to show you is just how easy it is to install this laser. And when I'm talking about a laser, it's the SoQ laser. It's an external device. It will mount on any sewing machine. So it's not exclusive to this machine or Janome machines or any machines. It has like a little sticky pad and a whole little kit that you can install on your machine yourself. So if you're taking a look here, I've got the laser out, and this is what it looks like. And it's got a cord. If your machine, like if you have the M7 or the M8 or an embroidery machine, like a dual machine where it has a USB port, you can just plug it right into the USB port and the machine will power the laser from the USB. This machine doesn't have a USB because there's no reason to bring files to it. So I'm just using a little phone charger, like just the block. It comes with the cord. And essentially what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to get this thread out of the way while I set up the actual laser. In the actual laser box, there are some little sticky pads so that you can attach the cord to the back of your machine if you want. I tend to leave it loose because I'm always switching machines. And you've got this little sticky base. And you can essentially put it wherever you need to on your machine. So, I mean, I could put it here, I could put it here. And yeah, that's not right above the needle, but don't worry. They've thought of that. So when you get it mounted to someplace that looks as though it's close enough to the machine, it's not going to interfere with the threading or anything like that, then you can attach the actual laser and the mechanism to the little sticky pad thing. Let me just get this. I've taken it on and off so many times. There we go. So get it stuck on there, and it doesn't really matter necessarily. It needs to be in the vicinity of the needle, but it doesn't have to be right above, because you've got some options, because the laser itself comes in and out of this part. And so you can kind of turn it around in here. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn the laser on now so that you can take a look. Ooh, yes. Now it's all like wonky. We need to get it situated so that it's straight in front of the needle. And it takes a little minute to get it lined up. But in your kit, you have a template. And what you're doing is you've got a 3/8 inch seam, you've got a 1/4 inch seam, you've got straight in front of the needle, and then you've got a 1/4 inch and 3/8 on either side of the needle. So what you're going to do is needle down, presser foot up, and this little V right here that is built into the template, you're going to just slide that right onto where the needle is. And then you're going to be able to tell how far off your laser line is from being directly in front of the needle. And then you can just go ahead and make the adjustment. So once I've got that laser right on that black line, which I have right now, I can go ahead and screw it in place. There's a little screw here, and that just tightens the laser so that it doesn't move out of that position. All right, so I've got it right on that black line now. So then I don't need to use that anymore. I can put that back away. And you can see that laser now is directly in front of the needle. And I'm looking at the shot and I'm seeing it. I got to tell you, the laser in real life is much brighter than what you're seeing on camera. I think maybe the white lights or whatever are dulling it a bit, but it's quite a red line here, even though it looks a little paler on your screen. So everybody knows, well, maybe not everybody knows, but when you're making binding, this is the way you make it. You take your strip, and maybe you've made binding before, so this is going to be familiar. If you've taken any of our quilting classes, I've gone through every single quilt, how to make your binding. So maybe some of you will remember. But you're basically laying down the ends and you're crossing them like this. And then you need to draw a line from here to here so that you can sew straight down here. And you need to do that for every single one. Same if you're making half square triangles, you need to draw that diagonal line down the center of your top piece when you're making half square triangles, and then sew a 1/4 inch on either side. This eliminates having to do any of that drawing, because that line, when I bring this now over to my machine, the laser line is now directly straight in front of the needle. And I'm just going to verify that we didn't move it. Oh, I moved it over a little. So you've always got the template to verify. And so now when I'm bringing my cross up to the machine, the laser here is running that straight line right down that point. So all I need to do is follow the laser line. And, oh, I forgot to thread the machine. Jen, come on now. Talking and talking. I guess some thread would help. All right. Thread the machine, no problem. We don't want anything interfering with the threading though. So make sure in the SewQ box, there's a bunch of little clasps that if you are going to permanently, you can still take it off. It just is a little sticky, sort of like a command strip. You can secure the whole cord to the back of your machine so it's not laying loose anywhere. So I'm using Deco Bob here because for piecing, I'm always using Deco Bob to reduce bulk. All right, so I'm just going to needle down and just check my positioning again. Good. So I'm going to bring that cross right to the butt of the needle. And all I had to do, because I kind of came in like this, and I could see where it wasn't straight, is adjust so that the laser was hitting the end of the block there, or the end of the strip. And now I know I'm going to be sewing straight. Yes, I hit it right on the mark. Awesome. Okay, so the time saver technique for making binding that I use instead of breaking the thread here is to take my strip, flip it, lay it down, take my next strip, and put it right across. And that way I'm chain piecing these together. Bring it over, don't have to draw the line. Thank you very much. And I can just line up that laser mark, adjust my strip so that the laser is running diagonal right through the bottom there, and off we go. Yes. All right, take my next piece. So I've got this one that's coming out of the machine, lying flat. And then I'm going to just flip it and lay it down on the table. So I sort of have right sides up, or maybe it's wrong side at that point. And then again, sew straight across here. What the laser is essentially allowing you to do is whenever you need to sew straight across something and you typically have to draw the line on your fabric, you just don't have to do that anymore. And so it's a real kind of time-saving step. Okay. Next one. Put out, flip. There we go. Okay. All right, so I've sewn my strips of binding. Now we have the task of, because when you're doing the time saver way, they all are chained together in this weird, confusing loop. And so I have another little gizmo I wanted to show you, which is it's called the cutting gizmo. And it's kind of handy. You can keep it on the, like beside your machine for whenever you're chain piecing. And it's just got a couple little blades here. And there you go. Just makes it easier than using the snips. So that's kind of a fun stocking stuffer one if anyone's looking for something to give a quilty friend. It just makes very quick work out of snipping your threads. So that's kind of a cool one. It's $21. So you can find that on homemade.ca. Okay, now I've got my big long strip. I need to just trim off these edges, and I'll be ready to press it because we still need to press, and then it'll be ready for the quilt. If you have any questions about the laser, I'm just going to snip it off now. They're $129. And yes, they do go on any machine. You can see I just with the on off here, there's a little switch at the side. And again, you can have yours attached to your machine however you want. And I just powered it with the little block charger. And if your machine actually has a USB port, then you can go ahead and power the laser right directly into your machine. So if you have like the S9 or S7, anything that, or an embroidery machine, one that takes USB keys, then it'll power it directly from your machine. Sorry about that. Thank you for all who said bless you. Anyway, that's the laser, and I wanted to bring that to you because it's such a great little Christmas gadget. Great for stocking stuffers, great as a gift for someone who is a sewer and you want to give them a little something without breaking the bank, but also that's going to be super, super useful. And in all likelihood, they don't have it. So that's a great one. So $129 for the laser, and we will ship that out to you. Okay, I'm going to turn it all off now and get it over here. I'm going to start trimming out the binding to get it ready for my quilt. But I don't want to essentially take all your time today watching me cut the binding, and I wanted to tell you about the lasers, and if you have any questions about that, feel free to leave them in the comments, and we will get to them as the day goes on. You can also always reach out to us at info@homemade.ca. That's a great way to get us. And if you have any questions about anything you've seen here today, or if we can help you in any way, we're always game for that. So I'm just snipping off the edges here. And just using that 1/4 inch line to snip a 1/4 inch off of. Oh, I started in the middle. Sometimes it's nice to have some different size rulers so you don't have to use such a gigantic one for every single job. Okay, this one's snipped. Let me know where you're tuning in from today. I love knowing where you guys are in the world. I am just at our studio upstairs from our shop in Kingston, Ontario, Canada. And yeah, it's always fun to hear where people are tuning in from. All right, I'm just finger pressing open the seams here. It makes it a bit easier when you bring it over to the iron. If you have a seam roller, now would be the time to use it. It's one of these little gadgets, and essentially it rolls open your seam so that when you bring it over to the iron, it's much, you're not trying to like poke the seam open with the actual nose of the iron. It saves a lot of burns and it's super handy to have. It kind of makes it so that every seam you don't necessarily have to press like right away. You can still work around it. So if you just give it that little roll on a hard surface, these things are great. So I'm just pressing open my seams just because that's going to help reduce bulk. It's not going to press the seam over to one side and give me like it's just going to spread out a bit of the bulk on the binding. Okay, so I am going to bring this over to the iron and just get these seams pressed. All the irons, by the way, 10% off for Black Friday. These irons never go on sale, so we just decided to lump them in with the machines and give everybody a little break if you were wanting to pick up one of these irons. You know, I've been using and talking about these irons for years. They're the only ones we carry, the reliable iron. This one's the Velocity, and the other one that has the tank that you don't have to keep refilling the water. This one's more like a traditional iron where you put the water through the top, but it gets so hot and the steam automatically comes out. There's an option for when, as soon as you touch the handle, the steam comes out, which I like. You don't have to press any buttons. So as soon as you bring it to your seam, you're good to go. And just pressing open those seams ahead of time makes the pressing process all the quicker. All right, and so now for the binding, I'm just going to fold it in half and press again. We need the whole thing folded in half. Just going to give you guys a shot here. Hold on. There we go. My ironing board has seen better days. It's well used. If you're loving the ironing board too, like with a squared off end, it's also on our Black Friday sale. I know lots of you picked up the iron in the past and have coveted the ironing board ever since. This would be a good time to pick that up too. We've already had one person do it. So yeah, if you want the ironing board, this is a good time to get it for a little bit less. All right, so you want to fold over your binding because the folded edge is going to make for one of the edges on the quilt, so you're not seeing the raw edge. And if you've ever wanted to make a quilt and you haven't, we go all through this process in Quilting 101. In fact, we go through the binding process in every quilt we make in our classes. So there'll be lots more, you can follow along here too, but there'll be lots more detail, especially in Quilting 101 if you're a beginner, on how to make your own binding for your quilts. All right, just one more little piece, and then our binding is going to be ready. Okay. So what I always suggest doing is rolling up your binding now into like a little roll that makes it more manageable to deal with. And sometimes when we're making the binding, we make it at the beginning in the fabric cutting process. And so then we just set it aside. And rather than have to press the whole thing again once you're finally ready to use it, it's in this nice roll and it stays nice and pressed. Plus, if you are going to use it right away, rather than have it all dangling on the floor or this big sort of mess of fabric, it's just a little bit easier to use when you've got it rolled up. There's a few gadgets in the shop, or a few, I guess there's one. And it's like for, you kind of wrap it around. It's kind of a hashtag shape, and you wrap the binding around it. And I've yet to try that. We have it downstairs. I really should. All right, so get your binding all rolled up, and then either put a clip or a pin, something like that, just to get it secured. You don't want it doing all this and then having it unravel. But I hope you found it useful to see the laser and another way that you can use it, not just for half square triangles or flying geese, but also when you're making your binding. I think you'll find if you have the laser, you'll pull it out more often than you think, because in quilting and in sewing in general, there's lots of having to sew straight. So the laser is a great little handy tool to avoid having to draw all of those lines. Okay, that's our binding ready and done. And I'm going to attach it to our quilt. I won't make you stay and watch the whole binding process, but I hope you learned a little bit of something about the lasers, about the little cutters. Remember, I put that beautiful fireside fabric on the back of this quilt. It's so soft and fluffy, such a good alternative to minky, since minky is sometimes very hard to work with. This is super soft and so nice. And my quilt is ready for that nice navy binding. If you're loving the long arming, we've got 20% off long arming right now too. So if you've got some quilts like me that I'm going to give Keaton for Christmas and you want to speed up the process, we can have it long armed to you and back to you in plenty of time before Christmas. So we've got 20% off long arming right now too. So take advantage of that. If you're local, you can just drop it off. If you live far away, reach out to us and say that you want long arming, because we will send you a shipping label. And that way the price of the long arming includes the shipping. That's, and we'll mail you a label so you can, and we'll arrange the pickup time. So that makes things a little bit easier. So thank you so much for tuning in to my little talk on how to use the laser for your quilt binding. I hope it's been helpful, and the crafting will continue today. So we'll see you back here real soon.